Just to get everyone excited, we have lots of chocolate because we're making chocolate croissants with this pastry to show how delicious things can get in the kitchen. Family. Today I have with me Hannah. She's a friend of mine. She would love to learn about making pastry. I'm going to give a quick lesson on making a very easy flaky pastry recipe. Homemade pastries are superior. What you normally buy at the supermarkets are full of margarine, very unhealthy fats. So before we get into it, I just want to cover 4 basics that is going to help you make the perfect pastry. So you want to think about the temperature of your butter. The butter must be soft but not sticky. So it's a very careful balance. The room you're working in needs to be fairly cool, not hot. Otherwise you're going to have a very difficult time. You must bake your pastry in a very hot oven. Don't put your pastry in until the oven is actually at the correct temperature. Letting your dough rest. There is something about letting dough rest that lets the gluten strands relax, and it makes rolling out the dough a lot easier. So if you're trying to force your dough and doing all the folds in one go, your dough is going to get tighter and tighter and you're going to start tearing it and it's going to mess up all your layers. And one more thing, almost forgot. The golden ratio for making pastry is 3-to-1. That's what makes it so easy. You can memorize the ratios. So 3 flour, 2 fat and 1 water. Okay, let's start baking. We will make a 3-cup pastry. So plenty enough to go around because no matter how much you make, everyone always finishes it. I normally work on a ratio of 1/4 teaspoon of salt per cup. So we'll be going for 3/4 teaspoon of salt. This is the ideal. Okay, it's a little bit sticky.
May I touch it
Too
once?
sticky.
Just no.
Indeed. There you go. So now you're intimately acquainted with your butter. I would say this butter is almost too hot. If you're worried that your butter is too hot, stick it in the fridge for a bit. A portion of this butter is getting rubbed into the flour. We are going to divide it into quarters like that. So we're rubbing in 1/4 of this butter into there. Literally by the end of this, you're going to end up with this fine, they say it must look like cornmeal or mealie meal, but it must be completely rubbed in. To speed it up, you can use your fingers.
No, hot fingers.
If you're worried about that, this is a trick. You simply use the tips of your fingers because most of the heat of your hand is in the palms. So you keep it very light and you throw it up in the air as well, so that you end up with cooling it kind of as it falls down.
Yeah, nice.
It's all about respecting the pastry. If you respect it, it will respect you back and be an amazing pastry.
I'm nervous that I'm not respecting it and I'm not sure.
And a cup of ice cold water. The water must be ice cold because it helps to keep the butter cool while you're working the dough.
Did you keep it in the freezer, in the fridge? How did you keep it so cold? Oh, you
I'm going to add some ice.
Oh man, nice.
So our water is nice and cold. Literally sticking my finger in, it's icy cold. Perfect. So what we do now, we're going to mix the water in, but the trick with this is every bag of flour is unique, and every bag of flour absorbs moisture differently because wheat is different. Every crop of wheat is different. So you don't just throw all the water in that the recipe says. You put in most of it and mix, and as you go, if you see you're going to need a little more, you put in spoon by spoon.
Wow.
That's a trick to know.
Interesting.
So you get a lot of women baking bread for the first time and they're like, what's going on? I follow the recipe and it's just dough everywhere. And it's like just a squishy mess.
You can relate.
You can relate. It's because they put all the moisture in without gauging the flour.
Okay, this is... I didn't realize flour was so alive. I feel like I have more respect now.
There you go, the respect. The respect is coming now.
Coming in.
Okay, so You see this texture? It's perfect. And I did an amazing job. So this part sounds like the easy part, but I feel this is a very important part of the process because how you add the water is important. A little bit pour in the middle. Pour your water in. And I've saved a little bit. A lot of people do this with their hands because there's something about you can feel the dough and you know, okay, this ball over here is very wet and squishy. Okay, this one you're sort of measuring as you go along. So now we have a very lumpy dough. It's very rough, but on the outside it's going to be dry, on the inside it's still very squishy. Rough pastry, we are now going to knead it for 1 to 2 minutes. What you want is a smooth dough, not too bread-like though, so you just 1 or 2 minutes till it's come together and it's fairly smooth. Okay, so I can't tell if it's getting stiff.
I'm gonna get in.
I know, it's perfect. This is
perfect.
Perfect because it's soft and it's elastic. The one thing you don't want is a rock hard, non-elastic dough. If you work in too much flour while you're kneading, you're going to end up with a rock. Okay, so doing this, you also have to work lightly, so not to make it too hot. Your dough must feel cool. Beautiful. Just look at this baby. Right. So, what did I say about resting? The dough needs to rest.
Yep.
There you go.
10 minutes.
So, you want it to dry out in the fridge, so just give it a wrapping. Most pastry chefs use baking paper, wax paper.
But it doesn't make a difference. You can still use it.
Yeah, you can still. It's just to stop it from drying out. Butter has chilled beautifully in the fridge and our pastry is nicely rested. So rested means really elastic. It's going to yield to our rolling. I'm shaping it into a rectangle. Just pulling out the corners a little because they always tend to stay rounded. Just pull them out a little. I have flour on top and underneath. You don't want too much. And just push the excess flour to the side. Another thing you need is a pastry brush. Ta-da! Now this brush is not actually a pastry brush. You might have noticed. And I have used it for other things outside of the kitchen, but that doesn't really count right now. We will just ignore that fact. It is an amazing brush. I bought it for 12 Rand at the hardware store and I use it for everything and it's just the best. Right, I'm not touching this butter because it's such a warm day and I'm worried the butter is going to melt. So I'm literally cutting it up. It doesn't want to even keep its own shape, so that means it's a little bit too hot. So we do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all along. Normally, if the butter is a bit firmer, you could just break it off with your fingers and stick it on there. So what I've done is put the butter on 2/3 of the rectangle and then you just brush the excess flour off the back here. After you've folded it up and you're pressing it down because the nice thing about pastry is when you trap air inside, that air is going to expand and make all the layers pop open. And that's what gives you that amazing crispy crunch.
Oh, nice.
So I'm just using the rolling pin to press it down because I don't want to overheat the pastry. The pastry is already getting warm. So now we just press it out. So the reason why you're dotting the butter is so that all the pieces create all these little mini flakes. So by the time you've done your 6th fold, you have like all these little pieces of dough that are very thin, with pieces of butter overlapping it.
Yeah.
So it's millions and millions of pieces like that. The classic pastry must have 760 something layers. It's in a very precise amount because of the number of times you fold it. So it actually comes close to 1,000.
Wow. So that's pretty much millions then.
Pretty much. I mean, you can't blame me for saying that. Alright, I'm being very general about the amount of butter you put on each time, but it should actually be measured out. We are doing 6 rolls and folds. We've done 1, so we just need 5 more portions. Right, so you're folding this third up to there. Just like that. Yes, and then you press it down with your fingertips into there. I'm going to try and seal it off so the air doesn't escape when you roll it out. Nice, perfect. And then you just brush all around these edges because you want, just brush them because you want these edges to stick on those edges. Some people even take water and put it on there to make it stick properly.
So do you put butter on, or what am I brushing it? Am I just brushing the flour off?
You're brushing the flour off, yeah, so that you can put it and this side here as well, because this is going to stick there.
Sure.
Now the flour is stopping this from sticking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You can fold the top down.
Most people would know what you're saying.
I don't think so. A lot of people don't make pastry anymore. It's sad. It's a lost art.
Now am I pressing it down first?
Yes. So you don't want to stretch it out of shape. You try and keep. No, you do a good job. There you go. And then you can take the rolling pin and press it down. I use the rolling pin for this part because it requires so much pressure. So you go like
so
this.
This part even
That part, yeah. This butter popping out.
This is butter popping out.
That is usually not a good sign, but
What does that mean?
all you do is you tuck it in. It's because it's a hot day. The butter gets very leaky and uncooperative, so you have to just be patient. Lovely pastry.
This feels like it's not right. Have I done something wrong there?
No, I think it's good.
No,
that's right. It's beautiful. Got a lovely seam all the way around, and I'm going to stick it in the fridge. If it was a cold day, we could have done another roll and fold, but we need to just
give it a bit of time.
Yes, give it a bit of time to cool down. Alright, so we've done 2 rolls and folds. I'm going to do 4 more and then rest the pastry again, and the pastry will be ready for whatever you want to make. We are making chocolate croissants, so you can't get better than that. Right, our pastry has been chilling. All the rolls and folds have been completed, and we are ready to actually do the fun part, which is making the croissants. So we're going to be rolling it out, cutting it, and putting the chocolate in.
That is fantastical.
Alright, so we have our pastry, and we have our chopped chocolate, beautifully done by Hannah.
Thank you.
So we want to roll out our pastry into triangles. What I like to do is I like to cut the pastry in half so that you don't have so much to roll out all at once, because it is actually quite tough getting such a thick pastry into 1 centimeter thickness. Look at these beautiful layers. That is what makes me excited.
Good grief. It's pretty wild.
So let's put the one back in the fridge. You want to try roll it out as evenly as possible and not squish it too much. It's important to not use a fake butter. So your butter must be 100% pure and not have canola oil mixed in. There are some brands that sell butter spread, butter spread has got oil mixed into it, and that's going to make it much harder to make a good pastry. Now that we're at this stage, we need to preheat the oven. So our oven needs to be piping hot, remember? So I've put the oven on full blast because I have a gas oven, 270 degrees Celsius, but for electric oven that would be 240. You would bake it for the first 10 minutes on 240 and turn it down to 220 during the bake. And then obviously for the gas oven, I'll turn it down to about 250. Out very thin, about 1 centimeter. You can cut the triangles how you want, any shapes and sizes. I just made nice long ones, and then you're going to have to roll them out a little thinner and sprinkle your chocolate on, and then you roll them up. So I'll show you how to do that. Just make it a little bit flatter and wider. Press the chocolate in a little bit. Just trying to remember how you roll it up. You roll it up from the beginning. Yeah, just like this. So you stretch it a little as you roll. You're stretching. There we go.
Good.
Give it a little crescent shape. So these little guys have to get chucked into the fridge again to be chilled. So while your oven's preheating, you quickly make your rolls. You must work very quickly and lightly so the pastry doesn't get too hot. And pop it back in the fridge for another 10 minutes. Then you stick it in a very hot oven and you'll see that pastry just magically puffing and rising. It's just the most rewarding experience. So they're baked beautifully crispy and they have lovely layering. I wouldn't say I'm 100% happy with them. In order to get the best rising effect, a person has to use white bread flour. It's also known as a strong flour. Basically, it has more gluten, so it's more elastic and it holds the layers better when it's baking. And then also to use 100% real butter. I had to use a butter spread and that made it a lot harder to roll. So, 2 things to keep in mind. There we go, we baked some beautiful chocolate croissants. We made beautiful flaky pastry. Thank you so much for joining us, Hannah. I hope you feel more confident about making pastry.
Definitely, I do.
I want women to go out there and be like, whoa, I'm a pastry maker.
We can conquer this pastry.
Absolutely. You can do it, women.
Yeah.
It's just a few simple
men
tricks.
as well.
Men as well. Very good point. So go and conquer the pastry and love the pastry. Respect the pastry.
Love the pastry.
Love the pastry. Bye, guys.
Oh.